Barku, a breath to spark the human heart. G'day there, friends and family, and welcome to a very special episode of the Barku podcast. Today I'm sitting down with the SlenderMan, aka Michael Cordner. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
Take two.
Yep, let's go. Let's do it again. It's all fixed up now, though. We should be good.
Excellent. We've just had some mic difficulties here this morning.
Mic for Mike.
Mic for Mike. Michael, so thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You've been a pretty significant part of my my Muay Thai journey.
Yeah, I guess I have, actually.
Yeah,
I guess I have.
And I was probably responsible for dragging you out of bed at some ungodly hour for quite a while.
You sure were, Mark Philpott. You sure were.
In the early days of Bones MMA.
6 a.m.
But you're no longer doing the early mornings, and you've transitioned to more evening classes, and some really exciting coaching opportunities have come your way.
Yeah, that's true.
Recently.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm full time now at Bones MMA. That's the MMA gym in Torquay. So yeah, I do a lot of the evening classes there and a lot of the beginner Muay Thai, which is fun. Mm-hmm. And I also take a lot of the kids as well, the kids and teens. Yeah, which has kind of become a thing for me, a staple for me, which is good.
It has, and my son Jethro did a term with Michael, and he loved it. And
he did. He's very good.
Thank you. And I think you have an excellent way with the younger people and with people who are new to martial arts. You're very patient, and you know your stuff, which is a fantastic attributes to having a coach.
Oh, for sure. I just love it, man.
Yes.
I just love it. Like, I'd be doing it for free. And anything you do for free, I mean, you don't work at all. So you can put so much more energy into it. You know, it doesn't feel like a chore. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, I love it. It's awesome, dude. I love it.
That's good. And so you love it now. And you're in your early 20s.
Yes, I turned 22 in May. 22.
And I couldn't believe when we first met that you were only 19.
Yeah.
And coaching with such confidence, and confidence in both your ability as a fighter and as a coach. When did you fall in love with martial arts? When did the journey start for you?
To be honest, I'm not really sure why I picked martial arts. Specifically boxing. Boxing was the first one I did. I must have just driven past it with my mum one day. I was very young. I think I was 11 or 12. I must have driven past one of the boxing gyms in Torquay and just said, I want to go give that a shot. And I did. I went with a couple of friends from school. And yeah, I just loved it. The second I started, I loved it. I loved the rhythm. Because I'd been playing heaps of music recently. Like from when I was younger, and I still played it when I started boxing. The similarities between the drumming rhythm and like the boxing combinations, it hooked me straight away. And ever since then, the rest is history.
So around 11.
Yeah, so I think I walked into the gym at 11, and I had my first amateur fight when I was 12.
That's quick. That's moving fast.
Yeah, I was begging for it.
Yeah,
I was begging for it. I got bashed, but yeah, it was probably my fault. I was begging for it.
So you jumped in pretty quick.
Yeah.
And as a young person at 11, I mean, I'd imagine you wouldn't have been a real heavy 11-year-old.
No, so I was 12 when I hopped in the ring for my first fight. I think I was 57 kilos.
Okay, so something my weight.
Yeah. Go, Mark. Yeah, pretty small 12-year-old. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know you were 12, but
yeah.
So
okay.
that's reason. And the other kid was a similar size.
Yeah, I think he was like 1 year older. I think he was 13, which to me at the time was like, oh, he's fighting a teenager, bro. You know what I mean? But I think he was the same weight. Yeah. He was just much better than I was.
After 1 year of training, I mean,
yeah,
it's very quick. But you went back. I mean,
I did, yeah.
Even after that experience, and it's a pretty heavy experience if you step in the ring and you do get clobbered.
It was. I think it was more of an experience for my mum who was watching, because she was just kind of going along with, her young boys. I want to fight. I want to do this boxing thing, and then we get there and it's actually a real full contact boxing fight. Little gloves, open face headgear, lots of blood and stuff like that. So I think it was a wake up call for her. But dude, I loved it. like I've even still got the video, and the second the fight's over, I've got the biggest smile on my face. Like to this day, the best 6 minutes of my whole life. You know, like I've really just realized that's where I belonged.
That's your thing.
Yeah,
that's where you belong. Yeah,
100%. And then we just rolled them out for the next couple of years. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I ended up having 15 amateur fights before I went pro earlier this year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we smashed them out, a couple of them. Yeah, man, it was good.
And COVID probably slowed that up a little bit in terms of that pro debut too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Not only, just the like there was no fights happening for a start, but also there was nowhere to train. There was nowhere to train at the time, and for me, when I don't have a fight coming up, it's hard for me to motivate myself to train anyway. And then the gym's shut, and so I wasn't working, and yeah, I just ended up having to deal with a whole lot of mental health stuff during that time. I ended up having to go to rehab, and so yeah, when you talk about like it delayed the onset of the pro debut, it was more than just that there was no fights. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was a big deal for me because I was 20. I had just finished school and I was like ready to start kicking my life off, and the whole world shuts down. You know what I mean? It made me very resentful towards the people in power, people around me, and stuff like that. But boxing, when boxing was back, I was fine. So yeah.
So and you mentioned it did impact your well-being, your mental state in quite a significant way over that period where you couldn't train and you couldn't do your job because it is. I mean, it sounds like you realised you're calling it 11 years old is to be in the ring, to be a boxer, to train other people to coach. Yeah. And to have that ripped away is really creates a bit of chaos in your life.
For sure. And, the one thing boxing's always taught me from a very young age was how to stay calm in chaos, because obviously when you step in the ring, everybody's shouting and, there's another guy right in front of you that's literally laying shots into you. It's chaotic to say the least, but there's parallels with that everywhere in life. Like school can be chaotic, work can be chaotic, and anything can be chaotic, overwhelming. But it's having to slow down, take a breath, and pick your shots in the chaos. That's really where boxing kind of taught me that about life. Which I'm really grateful for.
So in terms of, if we go all the way back to the beginning, and the first time you stepped out of the ring, and your mum did get a bit of a wake-up call, this is real.
Sorry, Mum. Yeah.
This is real fighting. And how'd the conversation look in your household as a nearly teenager about the place of fighting in your life and your family's values?
Well, thankfully, my parents were, just really supportive of whatever I wanted to do. Even before that, when it was music, it was, they'd be driving me everywhere and driving me to band practice and stuff. And when I started making knives, they were taking me to Bunnings or whatever and get me all the gear and stuff like that. So this was no really different, but, it's violent. And I think what was hardest for my mum actually was there was a lot of other parents around her, telling her, or, maybe speaking behind her back. I don't know. I was 11, but I think there was a lot of, why would you let your son do this? And that looks really dangerous. And it was kind of thuggy. And yeah, there just wasn't a lot of amateur fighters out of Torquay.
No.
It was all Lilydale, Corio, Geelong and Melbourne. And there just wasn't, I think at the time I was the only amateur boxer out of Torquay. And yeah, so it was new, but I think props to them both. They did an awesome job helping me out and supporting me with it, and driving me to sparring, driving me to work and stuff like that. So
it's really cool, and it's good to hear parents actually encouraging you to be you.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a real gift, and to hold it lightly enough to say, okay, if you choose to do this, there's a possibility you get hurt, and we're going to be here to support you and pick you back up again.
Yep.
And I think that's actually a beautiful image for parenting.
For sure, dude.
Because there can be a tendency to try and hold on too tight and to keep our kids too safe at times. And whether it's boxing or whether it's riding a mountain bike down a hill or skateboarding in the bowl or whatever it is, I think every parent has to battle with that. And it's really cool to hear how your family was able to make peace with who you are and let you go for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think you're right. I think that's a theme that should carry through parenting, but it's hard, man. Like, they have to sit there and watch their son get punched in the face, like that's not something you want to see. And, for other stuff and, people get injured plenty playing footy and stuff like that. You just, I like, especially like around Torquay, there's a lot of parents who they understand the risks. Whatever their kids want to do, they'll go for it. It's very sporty, very active, and then the risks kind of take a backseat to that, which I think is important.
It's good to, and I think it's one of those life lessons that we need to take risks to get the reward.
Yeah, for sure.
To come out the other side smiling and
for sure,
to have an appreciation for what we're doing.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
You're playing a huge role in our community in Torquay, I think, in terms of making, well, particularly Muay Thai and boxing accessible to young people. Can you speak a little bit about what that journey has been like for you, stepping into the role as a coach and a role model? And I would say, I know particularly my son, you're quite you're a beautiful presence in the gym. You're very tall.
Thanks, man.
So the kids,
very tall.
Kids have to look up to you.
That's a good one.
But, and you're the sort of guy that I'm more than happy for my son to be training with. And
awesome. Thanks, man.
I think you're a great influence in terms of the way you conduct yourself and how you are in that space. What's the journey been like for you transitioning to become, a full-time coach?
Well, it started when I was really young, like a lot of things in my life, I guess. I was really, I think I was 14. So I had been fighting for, must have been 2 years at that time. I probably had 3 or 4 amateur fights under my belt. And I got offered, to start taking some classes at the boxing gym in Torquay. I started off just like cleaning and like helping out the owner on some of his classes, and then eventually, after a couple of months, I started to pick up my own classes and stuff like that. Definitely the biggest learning curve for me at that time was to just handle the fact that I was so young. I was only 14, and when I was the only one in the gym, because there was a lot of times where I was, the boss would go on holiday for like 5-6 weeks, and I'd be the only one running the show. All the phone calls are gone on my phone, and I'm
This is at 14.
Yeah, I'm serious. So I was at school in year 8, and my phone would ring, and I'd be like, I have to go take this. Someone might be calling for whatever, memberships or whatever, and they'd be like, oh no, you can't go outside. Whatever, it's important, and I was. So it was very difficult for me to navigate that, because on the one hand, you go to school to get a job, to prepare you for the real world. And then there's something that I thought is preparing me for the real world.
It is the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm getting real tangible results from it. Mm-hmm. And that's almost not allowed in this education setting. And that was very confusing for me. It was really, really confusing. So I built a lot of resentment towards school straight away, like that. So I just really focused on the coaching for the next couple of years and did a lot of courses. And I started taking footy groups. So the footy clubs would come down. They'd do pre-season with me. I used to do big classes for them. I started coaching Krav Maga. Have you heard of Krav Maga?
Yes. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about your Krav Maga.
Have you really?
Yes.
Yeah, it was my short claim to fame. That was fun. That's like a contact combat. I've run a couple charity events for that.
What sort of charity events?
Oh, I did one. I did a seminar in Torquay for a veteran charity, because I was working with a couple of people at the time who were veterans teaching Krav Maga, and I just thought it was important. So I've always wanted to engage the community and make a difference with the coaching. You know what I mean? Because that's like the most powerful tool I have at the moment. And it just flowed on. I moved to Melbourne to finish off year 12 in 2018, and I boxed a little bit up there with another coach in Melbourne, and then Matt opened up a gym in Torquay, and I kind of rushed to the door and said, "Please give me a job." And yeah, he did, and I've just had so many opportunities now through Bones MMA, which I'm very grateful about.
And it comes through in the way you conduct yourself. In that, as a coach, you're not just there looking for the next talent. You give everybody the same attention.
Yeah,
even old farts like me who want to learn Muay Thai at 6 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, you get the most attention, Mark. That's all you get. You need it.
That's it. But I appreciate that because you give it 100% to make people feel valued and feel like developing their skills and their ability is just as important as a pro fighter who you might be training.
Well, 100%, man. I mean, if you think about it, especially for some people, walking into a gym that's full of people like hitting the bag, knowing how to fight, and they're about to do a class in this thing, Muay Thai, that they've seen on TV where everyone's bleeding and stuff like that. Some people really think they're going to walk in there and get punched in the face. Some people really think that. They do.
Yeah.
And to think that and then have the courage to walk out your house, get in the car, get dressed, walk inside the gym, sign up for the free trial, and then like start skipping at the start of the class. Like, I've got the utmost respect for anyone who does that. You've done so many steps just to get here. The least I can do is give you 100% of my energy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And what if they're ready to take it all the way for their whole life? What if that's the staple in their life from that point on? You have to give that opportunity. You do have to give that opportunity to people, especially if they're going to go out of their way to come, to come and see you for a class. So I think that's important.
And it is like it's one obstacle after the other, training.
Oh, for sure.
As you said, getting in your car, turning up at your first class when you think you're going to get punched in the face. Yeah. And we don't do that often.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Only accidental.
Only accidental.
No, we don't. We don't do that at all. But it's learning to overcome these obstacles. And whether it's your first class or whether it's preparing for a fight, I'm sure you've got plenty of examples of times where you've had to dig deep and perhaps learn new strategies to help you overcome each obstacle as they've crept up, from answering phone calls in class, operating the local boxing gym, out of the maths classroom, all the way through to where you are today.
Yeah, there has. And I mean, the one thing that I always tell people is I feel like I've cheated it a little bit because I've been fighting, and it's very hard to explain to people who don't fight, but every single time you step in there, you live a whole adventure. You know what I mean? You go through a whole ups and downs and hardship, and you get all of that in 6 minutes, and then you get that 6 minutes 3 times a year or whatever it is. And the one thing for me is I know how far I can go. You know what I mean? Like I know how far I can actually take it, and I think a lot of people, they don't know because they don't fight. They don't know how far they can really go and how deep they can really push. So I think for me, I've had a lot of fights where I've come out in the first round and I've just been slaughtered. I've been throwing punches that I can't land, and I've been getting hit with shots that I can't see. And you go back to the corner and you can see the look in your coach's faces of concern. You can feel everything in there. And you see that little look of concern and you're like, wow, I'm not allowed to just walk out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the round's going to start in 6 seconds. I've got to be on my feet with my hands up. Like, I can't just tap out and exit. You know what I mean? Like, people are here to watch me. So it's times like that where I really realized, bite down on your mouthpiece, take a breath. It's just punching. It's just ones punching. And twos. It is. It's just ones and twos, hooks and uppercuts. That's it. Move your feet, breathe, move your head, and start throwing punches. That's it. But sometimes when you're in there and your girlfriend's screaming at you, your mum's yelling at you, you can hear your family, your coach is yelling at you to do something, the crowd's yelling at you to do something different, his family's yelling, his girlfriend's yelling. It's very easy to get lost in it all. and it's a fight, but it's not. It's just boxing. It's punches and moving your head. That's it. And so yeah, I'm very grateful for those times, for those fights I've had where I've had to realize that, because obviously it carries through life as well.
So talk us through, because not many people step in the ring, particularly at a pro level.
Yeah.
What sort of emotions are going through you at that time when you sit down after the first round and things are not going your way?
Look, it gets very lonely very quickly in there. Especially the first couple of times you get hit quite hard in the fight, and there's no coaches saying stop. Let's have a little break. Let's have some water. The crowd goes crazy, and the other guy jumps on you. You know what I mean? Like he's there to finish you. So there's definitely a feeling of loneliness, and there's definitely a feeling of whatever I do, it's not going to work. I'm going to get hurt anyway, which is definitely the worst. That's the worst feeling, because you're moving around and you try a couple of things and they don't work, and the action of you trying to land a punch hurts you. You know what I mean? And it's very hard to get back on the horse and to start throwing punches again when every single time you throw the punches, you're getting punched in the face.
You're seeing the openings, and
100%. And it's one of the greatest lessons I've learned in there is just go back to the jab. Just go back to the very first step. Yeah. So you can't go out there and throw your whole barrage of punches if the first one's not going to land. You know what I mean? And I think, like learning to go back out there, relax, move, and just make a start. Just make a start. That was one of the biggest lessons that I learned in there. But there's heaps of emotions that go on, man. Like, some people are really scared. Some people get crazy anxiety. Some people get way overexcited and overcharged. I've seen people, because I also do a lot of like cornering, like fight coaching. I've seen people completely freak out beforehand. I've seen people do the exact opposite. They're way too relaxed and they get in there and treat it like a sparring match. It's very subjective, not only to the person, but what that person's going through at the time. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And this is something you do a lot of reading about too. I know you read books on the topic, you listen to people, you try to get the best information from the best in the business. What would you say is an optimal sort of state for somebody to step into the ring in? Like, how would you describe that feeling that you want to take into the ring?
That's a good question. I think you definitely want to be alert, but not alarmed. And you definitely want to be...
Is that the terrorists? Was that the old look out for terrorists at the airport?
Yeah, stay alert, not alarmed. Oh, nice one. Thanks for ruining my quote, Mark.
Alert but not alarmed.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. You want to stay alert but not alarmed, similar to Mark's little parallel there. But you also need to be aware of the chaos and aware of what you actually have to do. Because when you're in the gym and there's no one around, you don't have all those extra things at the fight. Sometimes just adding the lights and the crowd freaks people out. You definitely want to just know exactly how you're going to start. What's the first 5 seconds going to look like? And after that, then you can start to flow on. Once that one's landed, then we can start to land this, then we can start to counter and stuff like that. I just think the calmness in chaos is really the punchline for it. You got to be calm in all that chaos, and it just makes the whole thing much easier.
And have a clear intention. I'm hearing you say, like, you go in with a plan, particularly that first 5 seconds. You want it to work the way you've pictured it.
Yeah.
And you've rehearsed it over and over again.
100%.
And then a couple of other things. I mean, you reframe it. It's not a fight. It's boxing.
For sure. It's huge, dude.
Sounds really important too, because we have all these preconceived ideas about a fight. This is just boxing. And the last thing that I picked up on that you said was you break it right down to the basics. It's like nothing fancy. It's like, if I can land the jab, we're in.
100%. And what I've done with a lot of young people over the course of, not just recently, over the course of my whole coaching career, I guess, is trying to get them to understand that not just in terms of boxing, but that's literally how life works. You know what I mean? You just need to make a start sometimes. Sometimes you just need to throw something, and you get a reaction, and then after that you can throw something different, and you get another reaction. But you're learning the whole time. You're not standing there getting hit with shots and wasting time. And that's been really fun for me, actually, slowly figuring out what are the most important parallels from boxing to real life, and what can I take out of all these lessons that I've learned, and how can I deliver it to people who don't fight? Because not everyone wants to. You probably don't want to fight, do you? You want to fight? Want to fight
Not
me?
you. Not you. Too long.
Fight Jed.
But it's a funny thing because when I started training, I thought I'd never even entertained the idea of doing martial arts. But then the further into it I get, the more I wonder how far I could push it, because it is a space where you have an opportunity to push yourself
For sure.
and to see what you can deal with, both mentally and physically. That in a controlled environment, that you don't get many opportunities to really test yourself in that way.
No, you don't. Well, you had a
just
little
like an
blue,
internal in-house
in-house sparring match,
in a club,
interclub,
in the club,
interclub between our own club.
That's it. Because of
very
COVID,
friendly.
it's
Yes,
very friendly.
very friendly.
But yeah, definitely an interclub. If I can be well for one,
yeah, nice.
I'll be in.
Yeah, nice. Maybe we'll put you on the next one.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, you've set it on record now,
Absolutely.
so you can't go back on it.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. You take it one step at a time, and you kind of want to find out what you can do,
sure.
Given your ability and your situation. I think, or maybe actually you have to kind of disregard your situation partially when you step in and just go for it. But yeah, lots of lessons about the way you conduct yourself in your life come from the gym, and which probably leads me into your new venture, which you've been putting quite a bit of work into, which is, as you've said, it's Land the Jab.
It's Land the Jab. It's Land the Jab. Yeah, so I've been putting together a program over the last little bit. It was much more work than I thought, but it's been a lot of fun learning about it as well. Trying to put together a program that can actually deliver, these lessons or these answers in combat sports for people who don't fight, especially young people and especially young men in the school system, which has been heaps of fun. It's been heaps of fun. I've had a lot of help from a couple of people at Bones MMA, and yeah, I think we're pretty much almost ready to make a start. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Excellent. So what will that program look like? So it's in school setting. You turn up at the school with your kit.
Yep, with my kit.
And off you go.
Off we go.
What could a young person expect who perhaps maybe wants to badger their PE teacher and say, let's get this happening?
I hope they do. So basically it's a mental health program. It's not a boxing program. It's a mental health program with boxing as a tool to teach the lessons. And basically what we're doing is we're taking a couple of these really cliche colloquialisms. We've got Land the Jab as the first one. We've got roll with the punches, and we've got up to scratch. We've got down for the count. All these things that people hear all the times in their life, actually constructing some meaning with it. And then while they're learning boxing, the sport, they're also learning lessons, about how fighting can teach you what you need in life. You know what I mean? Which has been, it's been really important to me, obviously, and I just think it'd be good to share that a little bit. So it's a boxing class for half of it, and then the rest of it we use journaling, exercise, meditation. And, basically just trying to intertwine the two is really going to be the goal.
Beautiful. And I'd imagine, because I worked in the school system for a very long time, and, I know how hard it can be to engage, particularly young men of high school age, in a therapeutic setting.
For sure. like
sitting in a psychologist's office, for example, and how valuable something with some activity can be.
Yeah. Well, there's, on the one hand, exercise and mental health go hand in hand anyway. I mean, people doing exercise have lower stress levels and stuff like that already.
That's if you did nothing else.
Yeah. 100%.
Doing an hour of boxing a week is going to improve your mental health.
So as a start, I'm not worried about, people going backwards from it because I know at least they're going to learn something kind of cool for boxing, how to throw their hands, and they're going to get some exercise in, which, some kids never get exercise in. So it's really important for some kids, and it's huge and it's hard for them. And I'll be there to facilitate that. And then also on top of that, they're going to have the opportunity to actually play with their brain a little bit and extract some of the things from what they're learning. And the whole idea, with the boxing thing is it doesn't have to look like it's a therapy session. You know what I mean? Because a struggle for a lot of these kids is like school's a social environment. And if a teacher's saying, oh, you've been having some trouble, you need to go out of school for, one session for 5 weeks, to work on your mental health, that's not, a lot of kids will say no to that because they don't want to be that kid. Might be easier for them to say, hey, I'm going to learn boxing. It takes that taboo straight off it. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be huge. I think that's really going to help some of those younger kids who usually wouldn't dip their toes in that kind of area. They'll jump right in. So.
And I like that you use cliches because the terms we're all familiar with, and now we can hang some new meaning on it.
For sure.
And they're easy to remember, easy to recall.
Yep.
Just got to land the jab. Sitting in a classroom doing a test and where do I start with this thing? I'm a bit overwhelmed. I just got to land a jab.
Yeah.
Put the first mark on the page. Start writing something,
Yeah, dude, 100% though. It's huge. When I was, during COVID, during, my mental health decline, I guess, I started taking heaps and heaps of alprazolam, which is like Xanax, like the anti-anxiety pill. And so in rehab, when I was going through the withdrawals, every single morning you wake up and you just want to die, dude. Like your whole body's shutting down and you can't trust your brain. You don't know who's talking. It's loud but silent at the same. It's horrible. And if you lie in bed all day, it's just going to get worse. And sometimes for me, I would just say to myself, 3, 2, 1, stand up. And I'd stand up and I'd shut my eyes like that and my head would be spinning and I'd be just praying to God that I'm not on the floor. And after that, then I'd be, okay, I'm going to go have a cold shower. And it's the action of 3, 2, 1, turn the shower on. Sometimes when you're in pure crisis mode, you have to break it down that small. And, I think land the jab should show people that need it. You can break it down. For some people, it's putting their school bag on before they go to school. And for some other kids, it's doing well in their grand final,
Yes. Yep.
It's relative.
Yes.
And it's also not fair to say to people, just because, it's difficult for you to get out of bed in the morning, you're not as good as this other kid who it's difficult for him to, perform at a grand final because it's relative. And I think that's really important.
The challenge is relative.
For sure.
But the self-worth, your self-worth is constant. You're a valuable human being because you are here. That for me is kind of the bottom line.
For sure.
Whether your challenge is to get out of bed in the morning or turn on the shower or to run onto the MCG, you are valuable because you are here.
100%.
And I think that's a message that we need to hear more and more. Particularly in our school systems, which are very data-driven and performance-driven, and where kids do feel the pressure to compare the marks that they're getting to their peers. To have somebody come in and say, you know what, your challenge is your challenge. We're going to face challenges, and let's push ourselves as far as we can go. But your worth remains a constant.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
And that's like I said, when I turn up at the gym, I got no idea. You give me the same attention and respect as anybody else.
For sure.
And I see that come through in who you are, which I think will be a real gift to kids in those programs.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and look, I'm really excited to get something going where there's kids in school who are hyper motivated, but they don't necessarily want to do the schoolwork because that was me. And there's way more kids than you would think that are like that. You know,
Yeah.
I do at Bones. I do a lot of the local school year 9, 10, 11, and 12. They just come in for a couple sessions every term, and there's so many kids in there that are like dying to start doing something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But not the schoolwork they don't want to start doing. And I think if we can just show them that you can be hyper motivated for self improvement while you're young, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You really can, and there's so many little things you can do, and you don't have to stress about wasting time at school or whatever. There's so many opportunities now. Life doesn't have to be stress, get a job, have kids, pay tax. It doesn't have to be that anymore. And I just really want some of these kids to see that there's other options and there's other ways to live their life apart from wake up and I don't want to go to school. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I'm excited.
And you're absolutely right. You can work on your personal development and other education, because it sounds like from like 14, 15, you were doing coaching courses. Do you want to speak a little bit into where you found or how you pursued some of those? Like for some kids, they just wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah, and I didn't really know where to start either. But I started fighting, and this one guy, Adam Nahal, he works for Boxing Victoria somewhere. I think he's like the president now or something. But he works for Boxing Victoria, and he just came up to me and said, "Oh, you're taking some of the classes down at Coastal Boxing?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, there's next weekend we're doing a 2-day course for all the Boxing Australia coaches. Would you like to come along? And I'll give you a certificate." I don't think he knew how old I was, so I don't know if you're allowed to do that when you're 15. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, and I went and did it, and then after that, you just stay in contact with those people, and are you always Googling stuff, and staying on Instagram and looking what other gym coaches are doing, and even going to do other classes at other gyms, and just seeing some of the stuff on the wall, and you just got to immerse yourself in it.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. You just got to watch the YouTube videos on it, all of them. Watch them twice. Find some books about it. Find a podcast with some guy who's been doing it. Just immerse yourself in it. Just go crazy mode on it. It's fun.
And it's your thing. Like you found your thing and you jumped into it full on. And looking back now, even though perhaps the teachers didn't know what was going on when you're managing a gym from the phone in your pocket, were there any serious repercussions of that now? Like looking back now? No.
Of course there's not.
Of course not. And this is the thing, like in the moment as a 14, 15-year-old, we think, oh, that teacher's upset with me.
It was the end of the world.
End of the world, right? Yeah. We can't see beyond that moment. But now on reflection, it's like, I mean, if you had given that up then, could you be sitting here now? Perhaps, maybe not. But it was certainly accelerated your learning and your ability to talk to people.
For sure.
To manage a business.
Yeah.
And to and the opportunities keep flowing out of that community that you're part of.
And also, I got to do something that I love as well. I got to do something that I absolutely loved it. I loved being a boxing coach, and I loved when adults would come in and, they'd see this young kid and they'd look at me super weird. And then, but they're the nervous ones. This is my environment.
Yeah.
I'm completely comfortable in a boxing gym. I'm probably not comfortable, working at ASX Stock Exchange or wherever these people are from. But, in my environment, at my age doesn't matter. And I loved that. I loved it. And so, makes me think, if I did let some of that get to me, some of those teachers and, so some of those teachers I still see today, that they bring their class of kids up. I mean, I've had a couple of chats to them about it, which is all fun and games now. But at the time, it felt super real. At the time, it felt like I really needed to make a decision. Do you want to be a dumb fighter, which is what a lot of people were saying to me at the time, a dumb fighter in a thug sport? Or, do you want to do the real thing and go to uni and, do neuroscience, I think I mentioned a couple of times. And I just didn't want to do it.
A dumb fight. I mean, if people could just hold their judgments, reserve their judgments
I know, man.
for like 2 minutes, they might understand there's a lot more going on in this space.
For sure.
And, I had preconceived ideas before I walked into the gym. And I but not every gym is the same, and I think we're particularly fortunate.
It's true
to be where we are.
It's a good point.
But yeah, you can't tar everyone with the same brush.
No, you can't.
And you can't presume to judge something that you haven't been a part of. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and especially, not just in fighting, that's for everything. That's for everything. At the time as well, VCAL it might have been reasonably new, 2018.
It's all sort of had ups and downs over the years, but yeah.
Whatever it was, it wasn't the thing to be doing for smart kids. It wasn't the way to go if you wanted to be successful. It was the way to go, if you were smoking leaves out the back of the school. You know what I mean?
The easy option.
Right? Yeah. It was the way to go to kind of just like bung out of it and not do it. So I didn't do it, and I moved to Melbourne and did year 12 instead, and like worked my ass off and got a horrible score, and then I went straight into a certificate 3 that I could have been doing in VCAL for free, and I had to pay full price for it. And I was just thinking, what are you doing, dude? Like, you really let them get to you. Like, you really let those people convince you that this wasn't the right thing to do. Even though all the evidence was right in front of you, you saw it was something you wanted to do, you felt it was something you wanted to do, but you listened to the wrong corner advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, all these things I've learned over the years with this sort of stuff, I'm trying to feed into the program and just show some other kids what I wish I heard at that age.
So listen to your heart. Listen to what you feel you need.
Yeah, who's in your corner? The number one dude in your corner is you.
Yes.
You got to listen to you first. You know what I mean? And sometimes you have to separate. A really smart man told me this once. You have to separate, especially as a dude, your mind from your heart. From thinking with your dick. You know
Pretty
what I mean?
much, yeah.
Pretty
Different
much. And
senses,
if all of those are in line, you got to go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But listening to yourself first is huge.
Now, people throw around the term listening to yourself a lot. To you personally, is there any is there something you do when you feel you need to make a big decision, or where you do need that space to hear yourself think clearly?
Yeah, for sure. So usually when I'm making big decisions, and for me, since I've come out of rehab, it's mostly been like struggling not to use that day. And it's still every day for me. It's not as much as it was every day, but still every day I have to, I have that urge, oh man, I could just jump online and order some stuff. It's going to make me feel good. But you have to stop and you have to say, is that just a version of me who's thinking too far ahead and, thinking in 3 days I have to do something that's going to make me worried. So instead of thinking about it, I'm going to take a bunch of drugs? Or is that really the rational me thinking exactly how I want my whole life to be planned out, making those decisions? And, because I've done this for a long time now, and, I guess that's what happens as you get older. And I'm still young, so I'm still learning, but I guess that's what happens as you get older. You really start to identify which voice is which. And, to me now that they have a different sound in my head for sure. It's very easy for me to identify, which is the version of Mike that just wants all the fun things straight away, and which is the version of Mike that knows what the right thing to do is. You know what I mean?
And the right thing being aligned with your ambition.
Yeah.
And the things that you're going after.
Yeah, 100%. And your values as well. And that's something that took me a long time to actually figure out what my values were. Was still even, it's hard for me to put like a thumb on what my values are, but it took me a lot of work and a lot of therapy to realize that, one of my values was strong relationships. I like dealing with people. And, you always see the word strong relationships and you think it means like having a good girlfriend. You know what I mean? But it's not. Like, relationships is you and the postman every Sunday. When you walk out to the mailbox, it's you and that dude who, sells sandwiches up on Lockhart, gives you a smile every single day. Like, it's those ones that are important. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I've learned heaps of stuff.
Like those micro interactions are really important.
Yeah, for sure. Those micro interactions are really important because they're the parts of people's day that it doesn't happen to them every day. That can be the little sprinkle of gold And for some people, maybe like that's the change. Maybe you smiling at them at that part, maybe that's it. Maybe they go home and they realize, you know what, the world is a better place. I am, going to have water instead of wine tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's huge. It really can change. And sometimes, especially during COVID, because I got punched in the nose so much when I was a kid.
Yes.
My nose bleeds. Like, I'm surprised it's not bleeding right now. It bleeds all the time. So when the whole COVID thing came out and everyone was wearing masks, I put a mask on for the first time, and the hot breath from the mask up my nose started bleeding. And I was like, well, there goes that. I'm not doing that anymore. So I went and got a medical exemption or whatever. And but obviously, you know what it was like.
Yeah.
I was an anti-masker.
Again, it's the judgment.
Yeah. And, not just judging me for not wearing a mask, judging everyone that I associated with as, a political figure almost, like going against this regime. It's like, dude, I just don't want my nose to bleed in the IGA.
Like, would you rather me walk around with a bloody mask?
Yeah, man, I know. And, it used to make me very angry, especially because I had a real medical exemption and I'd have to show it. And yeah, and that's when I realized I can choose now. I can hate the world and I can become really murderous, like, really angry. Or I can go the complete opposite way and make sure that no one else feels the way I'm feeling right now. And I think, when I listen to myself enough and listen to the right voice, I think I picked the right one in the end.
The one that builds people up.
Yeah. 100%.
That gives them a smile.
Yeah.
Costs nothing. Just brighten people's day.
And it's easier because I'm happy now as well.
Yes.
So it's easier for me. You know what I mean? If I was angry and bitter all the time, it'd be easier at the time, maybe, at the supermarket to say whatever you want. But then you take that home with you, and you're sitting in your house and you're lonely and you don't want to go outside because you hate the world and you think everyone's against you, and nothing becomes easier. Everything just becomes harder. And so do other people's lives become harder with you in them. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but it happens quite a lot.
So letting go of the anger.
Yeah.
And when you smile, it's a feedback loop.
Yep.
Because generally when you smile, people will smile back.
Yeah, 100%. Isn't there that whole thing on mirror neurons or something?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Michael.
Yeah, no worries.
We've sort of drifted all over the place today.
I sure have.
Which is fantastic. I feel like this is a good place to sort of land this chat today. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your story and being vulnerable and talking about some of the challenges as well as some of the wins that you've had along the way. And I hope that story, it makes a difference again to somebody listening to this whenever they listen to it.
Yeah.
Because that's the cool thing about putting this on tape is it's a record of your story at this time and place.
For sure.
And if that can inspire somebody else to smile at the checkout clerk at the grocery store,
Yep.
or to walk into a boxing gym for the first time to give it a go, then I think that's a massive gift that you've been able to share today. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate you having me on and let me say all my things too. It's good. It's refreshing and I like it.
I've really enjoyed
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.